and Hecarim by just picking power in other lanes, whether it's the likes of LeBlanc in the mid lane for a really one-sided mid lane matchup, whether it's the likes of an engaged support in the bottom lane like Thresh. Both of these really good calls. We do have a remake, and it looks like Thresh is occupying the spot that Ashe was in.
Yeah, it seems like maybe they weren't able to pick the champion they wanted, so not Ashe this time, at least so far. Thresh, Rek'Sai, the first two picks.
But it's the excitement, though. This is Dumbledoge on Thresh, the playmaker that took that final of the Turkish Champions League by storm. Suddenly, even the likes of G4 are going to have to worry that if they cannot make this Thresh accountable, he can take over games. He's done it before.
Yeah, but the Titans answer well with their second and third. Gragas, Graves are their next two picks. That looks to be the jungle there for Gragas, and the nice aggressive Graves for Lloyd there as well. We are, of course, going to get a bit of a reset here for Beşiktaş as they consider their next round of picks here. Currently hovering, the Jinx could see that one coming through for Nadius, but we'll see what they want to consider here. What sort of comp are they building? Because Thresh Rek'Sai really gives nothing away.
Absolutely not. That's just a very flexible, pick-orientated mid-game champion. It's still a very relevant in the late game, so you're not giving anything away with the first round. Maokai, again, just a very standard meta pickup, deals very good with disengage, has very good peel, can engage. Maokai does everything you can opt. Jinx into Graves, not the ideal laning matchup, but we've already said Beşiktaş have that penchant for a lane swap. Get the lane swap in this game. Suddenly Dumbledoge can be so relevant in other lanes. Suddenly you get the freeze going on in top. I feel like Beşiktaş already demanding the lane swap with the 4 champions they picked up.
Yeah, Maokai, Jinx are their selections there for their last viewers. We're going to see what the Southeast Asia side does want to take away for their last 2 in this draft. That, of course, will leave Beşiktaş with the last pick here. And bit of a funky hover there of the Udyr, but I'm sure they're mulling over their picks. They do seem to have to pick up a support and the mid laner as well. So what does G4 want to pick blinds? My big question.
He's blind picked Cassiopeia in the past, and it is available this game. So it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility, but suddenly you see a Thresh could be roaming towards you. Suddenly you see a champion like Rek'Sai who has excellent uncleansable ganks at level 2 with the flash on Burrow, and it just becomes so much more risky for Cassiopeia because for such upside, such hyper damage scaling in the late game, she can get preyed upon in lane, so it might just be a bridge too far. They might have to go for something safer. They're hovering Ahri, it's locked in, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Ahri's super safe there, but Udyr is locked in there for Bangkok Titans, so someone is moving positions. That might be Gragas support, but stuff is going on here in this first game.
Look, let's just hope it's not Udyr's support. As amazing it would be, I'm sure there's the likes of Atlas off screen who are cheering for the Udyr support. Not a lot of lane presence coming through from the fiercely melee Udyr. We've seen Gragas support, I believe, in the LPL recently, so there are people that are trying to throw out the Gragas support. That was PYL, I believe, from LGD playing the Gragas support, but he played Bard, so maybe we can't think too much.
I don't know if we can trust PYL, unfortunately, but it's interesting. It's very ambiguous, of course, given that none of these champions look like standard supports. I mean, even Ahri could be a support at this stage of the game, but I mean, he's not going to be, but could. Gragas does make some sense to me. A lot of his jungle presence just comes from being strong with few items, so that does make sense, but he does benefit so much from Cinderhulk as well. We'll see what Beşiktaş want to do. They've certainly been thrown for a loop here with the Udyr being locked in for the Bangkok Titans, and again, sort of running out of time. Take Nidalee away for energy at the last second.
I think Nidalee is a big pickup for them. It's one of his comfort champions, not necessarily wave clear, but always poke orientated or the wave clear. Goes for a little bit of both with the likes of Nidalee. Melee range wave clear, but massive poke coming through. This is another champion that he played during the Turkish Champions League final. A lot of comfort coming through for Beşiktaş, coming in the favorites, playing comfort champions. Things shape up for them really well, especially if they can get that lane swap that we've already driven the point into the ground about. Lane swap for Beşiktaş, and they have a huge advantage strategically coming into this game.
Yeah, but it is the Gragas support from Bangkok Titans we have to think here. We're going to get G4 on the Ahri and 007X. Well, oh yeah, picked up Gragas, got Sejuani banned against him. Definitely changing up to the Cinderhulk standards. Nope, straight into Udyr. Which actually makes sense, because it's sort of like a really aggressive Nunu.
We wondered where he would go with this tank meta that he's so accustomed to. He was great on the Nunu, the Jarvan's falling out of the meta, and in general didn't look that impressive on the champion. Probably knew he had to pick up something other than Sejuani, because Sejuani is such a popular ban. Goes to the Udyr. We've seen other people dipping into the Udyr well. We know what he can do. He can be so annoying in the early game. You just worry about late game, just so prone to getting kited. The likes of Thresh, very strong with the flay and any sort of disengage. Not able to wade through the box either. You feel like Udyr is kind of a very risky pick. It feels a bit like LeBlanc on patches like 5.7. If you get a lot of work done early, get super tanky in the late game with already an objective advantage, Udyr can look like an excellent champion. But if Udyr falls behind as a fiercely melee champion, he just has those situations where he just doesn't really do anything.
I mean, for me, you definitely pick Udyr as a jungler just to basically pressure the other jungler. Your ganks are a little awkward given that it's bear stance only. But you do...
Sounds like Nunu.
Yeah, exactly. That was the thing. He's aggressive Nunu. You get in. Nunu kind of walks into camps. He stays safe. He snowballs you. He eats your creep, and then he walks away and just keeps track of the jungle. Udyr does the same thing, but instead of walking in and snowballing you, he walks in and kills you.
Absolutely. I mean, we can all dream of the likes of Poacher's Knife, Udyr coming through, but that's the playstyle we're expecting, even if we don't see that particular jungle item picking up. A lot of appearances in the enemy jungle, as I believe we have another champion adjustment.
We do. It seems that players are having some trouble maybe selecting their champions, but it was actually Vladimir, not the Nidalee, that was the last pick coming through for Beşiktaş. So that does change things up quite a bit, actually, for the Turkish lineup.
I mean, it's just so much late-game power coming through. Do they want to isolate this lane? I still say probably yes, even though Vladimir going to struggle in the early game against Ahri. It's always the Hextech Revolver and moving towards level 9 for a bit more lane presence. And in the late game, Jinx Vladimir, you don't need to say much more than that for damage. A bit of an assist coming through from the likes of Maokai and Rek'Sai, but it's definitely going to be two massive damage threats coming through for Beşiktaş.
Yeah, I mean, just take a step back there and think about that combination. Hemo Plague plus the Jinx ultimate's already enough, but the fact that in Rocket Launcher form, you get AoE as well, potentially AoE crits coming through.
With 12% more damage, of course.
Not too bad, as it sounds.
Yeah, I mean, Infinity Edge into Hemo Plague is a disgusting combination when the critical strikes come through. 250%, 12% bonus on top of that. Not exactly sure how that interacts, but we're talking about 280% crit damage. We're talking about a lot of damage from the Jinx. So the lane swap, that's the big question, though. I'm really going to be looking for that level 1. Suddenly, and it's worth noting, actually, that while it doesn't take the Smite in this case, you would feel that if they got into a lane swap, Smite would really help out the Hecarim so he could actually pick up those jungle camps easier, but going for the laning option in Ignite.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this already, I think, as well. It was just Swiper, I think, from the Chiefs who took away that Smite, adapting that new Cinderhulk style that we've seen in the top side. But Ignite, it makes sense. These teams, we've kind of characterized them already. Aggression seems to be the name of the game for a lot of them. And with Hecarim, we talked about his early game can be a little bit awkward sometimes. Why not just get a little bit more kill pressure to help you out in the early stages?
And doing my research on these regions, some regions just don't pick up the Smite, whether they're not used to it. Of course, Flandre bringing it onto the scene of the LPL only about 2.5 weeks ago. It's a very new thing to adapt to. I just feel like having that challenging Smite opens up Hecarim to fulfill his role in teamfights so much earlier. Challenging Smite onto an AD carry doesn't matter if you don't have the burst damage from Trinity Force. You can still occupy all of their time.
Well, we'll have to see how it shakes out as we are onto the Rift here for Bangkok Titans versus Beşiktaş C versus Turkey here for the International Wildcard Invitational. And do not adjust your screens. That is a 007X Udyr.
We wondered where he would go in this meta, known for his tank junglers. Nunu taken away, Sejuani, the most obvious movement from there, taken away. And we zoom into definitely not Udyr on the Rift, happily dancing.
And of course, that does leave the early pick Gragas that might have, thrown Beşiktaş for a bit of a loop. That's actually down in the bottom side for Moss on support. So Relic Shield Gragas going to be the mix-up. Beşiktaş looks very standard. This is a practice-looking, late-game oriented comp. And Nadius is already in the top lane looking for that lane swap. But Bangkok Titans, they came to play and they have mixed it up already.
Bangkok Titans haven't sniffed out the lane swap just yet. You can tell from the fact that the red team's bottom lane is on the top side of the map that it's definitely a lane swap initiated by Beşiktaş. Moss just throwing over a couple barrels to help out Udyr. He's going for a dance, maybe a little drink as well before he gets to his first camp.
By the look of that bear stance Udyr dance, that was a very clever bit of flavor coming through there from the Bangkok Titans. As we are going to get the Phoenix leveled up first, 007X is going to wander down to the bottom side of the map, and it seems like Krug's into red is where he'll start.
Theocles, we already praised his Rek'Sai in Champions, that this guy finds ganking parts you wouldn't expect. And Rek'Sai, the unique thing about her is that she can do a bit of a Shaco impression, come over thick walls that you wouldn't expect with the unburrow, then even potentially flash instantly into position for the unburrow. So she's very flexible with her ganking pass, and a smart jungle like Theocles, suddenly, we mentioned this in Champions Select, if we do see the lane swap, You're going to have to be so much more accountable with G4, as Nadius already starts the freeze.
Thank you, Izzy, when he gets to do his 2 items, and when's he going to get that Trinity Force? But we are popping back into the game, and Nadius executing his freeze wonderfully here, just going to slowly last hit the top wave.
We'll wait to see if there's actually any difference in when these creeps actually hit the turret. That's the big part-time, is on how well you control the waves to ensure they keep pushing as the subsequent waves come in. On the minimap, can't really tell at this point. The hard freeze going on. Udia doing a bit of farming. And Thresh actually going to peek up to top, maybe pick up a couple of levels, and the roam will be on.
Yeah, I like this from Moss, actually starting the blue buff up for his jungler as well. Wants to get the ward down. 007X going to come in, and we might even see a support follow here as well. We haven't quite talked about it, but Gragas, again, a jungler known for early game pressure and CC. Not quite Thresh on levels of roam, but not too shabby.
I mean, the level, too, if we're talking about the flash bodies, how much the flash bear slap, all those things are very relevant. So it'd be something different. They could even maybe get the Drunken Rage and opt into the earliest dragon we've seen so far in the IWCI. Looking at the minimap, looks like they're just trying to pick up the Rift Scuttler, but the dragon, a very realistic option for Bangkok Titans.
Yeah, they might even look to take it away after they pick up the Scuttler, as they seem to be walking back to the Grom. We are going to have the blue buff taken away, of course, so Beşiktaş will be jungling on the top side of the map, and we saw the freeze started by Nadius, but Dumbledore's not roaming. He's actually helping Jinx fast push.
This is super fast push. They're trying to bait the teleport to top lane, because with 4 members meeting there after picking up the Gromp, no flash available on Hecarim, he would die instantly. So far, Warlock's been very smart not to try to enter this lane. Tholdren's still showing himself. They're taking their time to show themselves as a 4-man group, but now you can see everyone's in the top lane. They're trying to start the fast push.
4 people pushing, might even start proxying the way, but a great response here by the blue side going into that early dragon. So we talked about responding to these sort of lane swaps. So far, the first 4 minutes has looked great by both sides.
I mean, the big thing here for Bangkok Titans, though, is that if you answer this turret for a dragon, it's going to be an instant boost of gold. Suddenly you have more roam items, maybe close to the mobility boots coming out for Thresh. It's going to be more gold in general. And if you can't answer the turret, you're going to have a situation where when the swap comes back, when we see the likes of Nadius and Dumbledore's coming back to the bottom lane, you're going to have to really overextend with a no-flash top laner like Hecarim, and that's where the wraparound ganks will come from the likes of Theocles, who can already be very creative with his ganking path. So this turret will fall down very, very soon, and the question will be, where did Beşiktaş go from there? Because they're not so much about the single rotations. They're looking to back, because this lane decided to push back. Yeah, it's interesting. They're not looking to fast push now after getting so low.
Yeah, they held the wave back, and they're actually going to freeze it here once again. So Dumbledore, enabled to roam here, but not leaving quite yet, does take the cannon creep, though, away as well. Will now recall. Potentially will look for a roam there as well, but we do have Moss actually rotating to the top side, but that's very dangerous at this stage.
It's only the support, remember. We see Gragas on the minimap might be forgiven for thinking that it's a top laner or the likes of a jungle, but it's only the support coming through, doing a bit of warding. Hecarim is going to slowly walk to the top lane. They've definitely prepped this turret earlier. Maybe they're just looking for a very creative turret dive where they just wipe out the turret and then suddenly Jinx gets excited and they pick up the kill. But it is surprising to see them put so much effort into damaging down this turret and it's not finish it off. It's on literally 100, 150 health.
Yeah, I like that Moss is here as well. Warlock has to think he's getting baited.
It's suspicious at this point.
Yeah, it's very suspicious. And even Udyr is going to come up as well. But actually outnumbered in the top side of the map right now are Beşiktaş. So Warlock will get plenty of farm here with his friends by to help him.
Yeah, the vertical jungling ended very, very quickly in this game. No more vertical jungling going 2v2 action in the top. No dragon spawning for another 5 minutes or so. So just standard lanes at this point. Graves versus Maokai, though. That's the result of all these changes. The Maokai definitely going to find an easier time picking up on the bar.
Oh my god, going in energy got so low from an all-in by G4, and 007X flashing over the Raptor cam to try and get the kill.
So that was speculative, to say the least. He tried to be secret agent Udyr, 007, could not pull it off. Going to get a bit of turret damage down, but now the flash is down, and suddenly his gank presence goes from low to really low.
Yeah, but great stuff from G4. Only used his Ignite there in the trade in Vladimir's defense. Did keep both of his summoners up as well, but good early pressure. Energy, though, able to get up quite high on health. Actually had a few potions there, starting boots 3 pots, it looks like there. So an early lead to the Ahri like we expect, but Vlad holding out just fine, especially after dodging the Udyr gang.
So after that damage trade came down, Vlad was always going to be on the backside. We were going to expect Ahri to keep pushing in bottom. Graves has had, Lloyd especially has had basically permanently pushed bot lane. That should have empowered Udyr to have so much presence in the enemy jungle, get that counter jungling going that we talked about in Champions Select. But now that his flash is down, it's kind of awkward because even though he's very tanky, getting caught, you're caught. And speaking of getting caught...
Yeah, Lloyd getting aggressive on Dumbledore here as well. Theocles also there, does get body slam back. Moss will get hooked away, but the teleports come through for Warlock running in on top. They want to get so aggressive but can't quite find it without the ultimates available. And lots of trades back and forth, cooldowns blown, but no one dies.
They definitely didn't have the CC to pull off a successful game. They'll lose at least this turret, though, to be honest, was already super low. The big factor is, does Hecarim lose this massive minion wave after being denied from farm for so long? You can see in the rocket launcher form, just to push this wave in as fast as possible. Udyr, hopefully, 007X, honestly, his best move here would to freeze the lane and get that high item cap. Hecarim, who needs at least the Trinity Force to be relevant, as much of the CS as possible, and he pulls it off well.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's doing. He even pops into Turtle Stance just to shake off some of the incoming minion damage, but Warlock, a Null Magic Mantle in the inventory to join in with some early boots of speed. I think he has an idea about how he's going to catch up here, and it's just wanting to go for the home guards.
And look, he really wants to have the same presence as, well, look at this.
Oh, look at you, looking all handsome in there as well, thanks to Destroyer. Those watching on, looks like 2 different screens, a laptop and a TV. Very creative.
Very affluent members that we have of the party. We've seen 3, 4 monitors. Everyone's got their sick setup going.
Yeah, and that's good. Again, want to know how you guys are watching, so keep sending those in as Warlock, holding his wave now on the top side of the map as well. Wanted to make sure it stays here for as long as possible. And like I said, I'm expecting some early home guards, so wants to just be as influential as he can when he does get his ultimate.
So lots of credit to the Bangkok Titans. They've been very smart. They picked up the early dragon. The next one's coming very soon. We're seeing a damage trade.
Yeah, ulti though comes through. Moss forced to flash away. Lloyd pops the heal in there as well. 007X also now looking towards the bottom side of the map. Can maybe bait them in here. And now he's going to run in.
Going.
The Udyr's coming in on the best edge. Ulti already used. Moss dives in massively. Dumbledore's in trouble. Not going to get slow, but Lloyd needs one more auto attack. And first blood goes to Graves.
They're even able to pass it over to Graves. Ideal in that situation. Tried to split the difference. Hoped they could get the double kill, but Nadius still had the flash rebel. Ari, though.
G4 wants to dive in. Does have his ultimate going to go in. You have to think teleport come through now as well. Charm just going to miss, but they'll go in massive. Wonderful orb of deception. Able to take out the kill, and Thaldrin now in trouble. Going to get doped by Moss. Gets the body slam in. Smite down there as well. 007X looking for the kill. Will go over to Udyr. He'll die in the trade, but a 2-for-1 and a turret for the Bangkok Titans.
They weren't able to ideally pull off the the turret juggling, but they still pick up the kills, and the second objective comes through. They had the dragon already. Next one in 35 seconds. If they can put up a bit of vision, shop with the massive influx of gold they just picked up, they will be an excellent spot to secure this second dragon.
Great movement back from Warlock. Had the wave frozen in the bot, so transition to the mid lane just to cover there. And Ari, G4, massive dive there as well. Comes back to lane against the Revolver with the Morello Nomicon.
And speaking of massive, not just that mid lane itemization, pickaxe and BF sword on a champion like Graves here from Lloyd, who has so much burst potential with that flat AD. This Jinx will eventually get to the point where she has a lot of flexible options when her trading starts to get strong against Graves, when she picks up the range on her rocket launcher form in general. But at this present point, has to respect the power timings coming through from Lloyd.
So Bangkok Titans jump out to 3-1 in kills. The turret's tied, of course, after the early pushes coming through, and only a slim lead here for Bangkok Titans. Are up a dragon as well, and most importantly, the second dragon is now available.
But look, they've been very smart in their rotational play. That was something that we definitely had a big question mark about the Bangkok Titans, really showing the Southeast Asia region proud with their smart usage in the lane swap situation, in the early rotations, playing very smart. The second dragon is live. No one started off yet. Teleport's not available, so it'll be an isolated 4v4.
Yeah, Theocles actually using his ultimate towards the top side. Will sense out the Udyr with the Tremor Sense. Moss there as well, maybe caught out, but Theocles maybe a bit too aggressive. It's 2v3 right now as they are going to go in, but Dumbledore joins in. Lands the hook on a 007X, but Warlock's joined in. The ulti there for Jinx. Warlock's takes a massive burst of damage and goes down to energy. 007X forced to flash out as G4 gets the kill onto the Rex side. Charm lands there as well as support Gragas going to fall also, and Ari runs away there with the Orb of Deception speed, but a 2-for-1 trade this time for Beşiktaş.
Yeah, the 2-for-1 trade suits them well, but it's important to notice that Nadius walked all the way from the bottom lane to try and get some kill involvements. Of course, did with the Super Mega Death Rocket splash damage, but it gives up plenty of time for Graves to push up bottom, try to equalize this CS advantage. Picking up this turret, though, that'd be a big win for Beşiktaş. This is the mid turret. Suddenly, they've always been very on point in their vision game, and you have so much more space to get aggressive wards down when you take out their outer mid turret.
Surprising to me that G4 didn't want to defend that turret with a blue buff Ahri, but maybe just felt a little uncomfortable with 3 members pushing in. So the early turret advantage will go to the Turkish side. They're 2-1 up now in turrets, but maybe with people backing away, that dragon's still available as well.
It's surprising. They had the timing. They were in position. They had just taken down the turret, you remember, as Dragon was spawning. But they haven't got any pink wards or any exclusive vision around this area. And even now, looking at the minimap, it's still quite risky. They still have a lot of darkness in the enemy jungle when it comes to DPSing down a quick second Dragon.
You can see wards in general being put back down. Supports now have their sight stone, so look for the warding to increase. Dumbledore as well as a pink ward in inventory. Scuttlecrab will go down to the Thai team as they'll take it out and get some vision around the Dragon, but looking to push in. Theocles eats a charm there. Good chunk coming through, but Lloyd so aggressive. Goes in, flashes with the ulti, but gets hooked after it. But Moss gonna join in as well, and that is some Graves play.
That was some instant aggression. I thought it was Riven for a second. Their animation canceling to get the melee range buckshot. Aggression, we thought the advantage would go to Bangkok Titans, and you see right there why.
Yeah, and they get a pick and take the Dragon. That's the style that they're importing here into the Wildcard Invitational from Southeast Asia, and it's looking wonderful so far. Still not quite with a gold lead, but keeping on top of those objectives.
I mean, I can understand why Theocles was surprised. How often outside of laning phase do you see flash initiations from AD carries of all things? Didn't go for the quick draw, which has that slight animation, just went for the instant flash into death coming through, and they pick up the objective. So worth it, I have to say.
007X hanging out, does take away the Krogs there. Energy going to walk back to lane as well. Abyssal Scepter's been completed there for the Vladimir, so getting a bit stronger now as well. As we look down, no other major items completed right yet. It looks like Thaldra and the Maokai going to be working on a Righteous Glory, I believe.
And we have to kind of temper our excitement at the fact that Bangkok Titans are squarely in this game, because they're certainly not in any semblance of an advantage. 20.5k gold for both these teams, so almost identical in the gold. In fact, identical at this point. They have the 2 dragons in the pocket, and we've seen that the Dragon Snowball can definitely be a massive win condition for the Bangkok Titans, but they certainly haven't opened up a lot of space. And looking at these comps, we said it during Champions that we have to remind the viewers again, the scaling advantage, Vladimir Jinx, need say no more. The late game team fights look squarely in the advantage of Beşiktaş.
Yeah, and it's that gold lead being even certainly does mean to me that the objectives are the big thing here in this game. It's Dragons for the Titans and Beşiktaş look problems because you need to kill both of them. But if one of them's behind, or you're able to kill one and then the other just can't do a whole lot because, again, you're kind of in a more middle stage of the game. But that's a team fight that Bangkok Titans can absolutely win. And
they have disengage options. I think the Gragas might actually be a big consideration in the late game, just because the one thing you can say about Vladimir Jinx, lots of consistent damage coming out. Vladimir in the late game has those sub 6-second cooldowns on both his AoE ability and the transfusion as Lloyd. That was some real fast feet. He didn't have flash, remember, but was not punished for it.
Yeah, did not get ganked there. We had 3 people actually in the area, as they might even look to dive here in the bottom side. Lloyd does not have help, although it's on the way. Ultis just to clear the wave out. Smoke screens the last 2 crits as well. And look at the mind games, just running towards the enemy, and they run straight in the opposite direction.
Being able, as Graves, a short-range carry whose wave clear is really about getting in a few auto attacks and then getting a melee range for buckshot. Gragas on the top side of the map. The fact that he even bought this extra 20-25 seconds for this turret to come down is relevant, because it opens up a lot of action in other lanes. Unfortunately, G4 goes for the roam, doesn't get anything out of it, but it was smart play from the Graves.
It was actually very clever the first time when he ducked out of lane just to be like, uh-oh, she's coming. I don't want to get ganked here. Unfortunately, couldn't buy enough time for the gank, as Theocles looking for something in the top side. Just finds the Scuttlecrab for now, as we will see the blue buff possibly just given over here to Energy for some cooldown reduction. And again, if Beşiktaş, they're holding strong here at this stage of the game, that's where they want to be with their comp. 3-1 now up in turrets as well.
Yeah, ironically, no mana jungler and no mana mid. Vladimir, a bit like Zed, very gated around cooldowns for consistent damage in fights. Don't really need it for the laning phase, because already your transfusion, your big laning item, is on a very short cooldown. Warlock, though.
Yeah, he's been ganked, forced the ulti out there as well, but they might still be able to keep chasing. Flash Arcane Smash will knock him up. Very tanky, though, is the Hecarim just from the W, but Warlock does end up getting the kill.
The Thai top laner does fall down in that situation. Beşiktaş back away, but not able to pick up any objectives from this big situation. They can push onto the turret. Baron, not a realistic objective. In fact, not even spawning for 3.5 minutes at this point.
Theocles is actually getting caught. Very nice combo there from G4. Gets the first kill. Thaldron now in trouble as 007X gonna run in. The Orb of Deception clips him a second time. Flash forward there. His energies also in the area. Wants to go in. Massive flash from Ari. Hemoplague down now as well. But Vladimir might get himself kited, and 007X keep going. The
Teleport's coming in.
Yeah, coming through for Warlock. Wants to go in. Gonna dive in onto the Vlad, who is forced to flash away. Both summoners now burnt as well. They'll keep chasing. Energy getting low. Gets ignited by the Hecarim. Slowed by the Udyr. And Warlock picks up that kill.
That was really poor play from Beşiktaş. They got the pick, but there were no objectives to pick up. The outer turret and top had already gone down. They overstayed for a Gromp of all things and were punished. Now the snowball starts for Ari. We mentioned the fact that she gets strong enough to do damage to both the front line and the back line in the fight when it suddenly becomes super risky to dive in as the relatively squishy Ari. Death cap already completed. This is a scary, scary 17-minute Ari.
And I actually like the very subtle Gragas Ari synergy. This massive Ari now who can dive in. If anything goes wrong or you just need to separate someone, Gragas Ult's a great tool for an Ari that's now very short range.
And that's just the kind of the happy thing that's come out of all the Gragas changes and nerfs that come through, is that people finally appreciate the explosive cast for its utility, not as AoE 1 AP 60-second nuke that it was originally. Suddenly you can use it for disengage. That's why we see the rise of the likes of Lulu, Nunu, Gragas comps with the likes of Jinx or other hyper carries. You can use it in jungle ganks just for displacement, either offensively or defensively. It's such a unique ability. It has so much utility in both a winning and a losing team fight. The Gragas support, it's a bit of a mind game, absolutely, but it can be very useful.
Yeah, it's looked great so far here as aggressive wards being put down by Bangkok Titans as well. One's going to spot Jinx, maybe even walking just down the lane. Lloyd coming back. Infinity Edge Zeal there for the Graves as well. And you can see why the Bangkok Titans are trying to get vision on the right-hand side of the map, because that Dragon, he's back in 35 seconds.
Important to note, no teleport for Hecarim, so they're going to have a difficult decision here with the Bangkok Titans. The third Dragon, especially with a Hecarim comp, has so many synergies. Hecarim and Udyr suddenly that much harder to kite. Hecarim actually getting damage from his passive with the 5% movement speed. Again, the picks become easier from Ari. Movement speed always a very relevant stat, but it's definitely got a lot going on the Bangkok Titans when it comes to movement speed synergy. But it's going to be an outnumbered situation. So Bangkok Titans, they need a pick before they even attempt what will still be an even numbers drag.
Smartly, they're moving Warlock over now as well, who looks like he's pushed out the top wave back in their team's favor.
It's a long walk for Maokai to get to this lane. It's a long walk before he can really start making them pay in a global sense. So this is the time to start the Dragon before Maokai can choose between influencing the team fight or taking down an inner turret.
Yep, and they're going to get Warlock and 007X on top of it. Maokai has to come now if he wants to, and it seems like Beşiktaş might just be giving up the Dragon. The Seaside once again going to get their third straight.
And this is just the value of being on blue side, getting lane swapped on and being able to punish it just from picking up the Dragon on spawn. The second one a bit delayed, the third one coming out basically on spawn. Seeding away a first Dragon, a second Dragon, sure. I mean, they opted into seeding away the first Dragon, but the third one of all things, suddenly Udyr, much harder to kite in a team fight. Suddenly Hecarim, that much stronger, even without the Trinity Force being completed. They're giving away a lot of advantage here to Bangkok Titans, and answering it Beşiktaş with an enemy blue buff, not really the biggest, especially onto Theocles of all champions without any resources.
Well, we already talked about it. They don't really have a good blue buff person anyway. Jinx would have been the best if she was in the top side, but currently in the bottom, farming the rest of the waves. 007X going to take away the Scuttle Crab there as well. Is getting spotted out here. The Tremor Sense maybe being tricked ever so slightly, but Warlock going to take the bush and finds a Maokai instead. Going to start the team fight there. They'll fight very tanky, but Moss rotating in as well. 007X wrapping all the way around the top as well. Thaldron gets knocked up. Ultimate used there as well. They want this kill and they'll try and take it. No flash here from the Maokai, and he will go down to Moss.
Beşiktaş always have members in this blue side jungle of Bangkok Titans with no objectives to take. It's a fourth kill they've picked up as a bonus, you'd have to say. Hecarim doesn't get the kill credit, but again, the snowball continues faster towards that Trinity Force. Beşiktaş, I'm not really sure what they're looking to do, because they're usually an objective-focused team. They've taken out the outer ring of turrets. It's the next step that's left them a bit puzzled, with Dragon being monopolized by Bangkok Titans.
Yeah, and the Titans now building up an advantage. 1,500 gold ahead, so not a massively, but starting to get further and further ahead. You can see Warlock's finished up his Trinity Force. Didn't need the emergency home guards that I thought he might have. Just some Merc Treads, an extra Null Magic Mantle, and now a very nicely timed T-Force.
And look, I mean, Beşiktaş can rest in the fact that late game looks wonderful for them. They still have those synergies we speak about, but late game against a 5th Dragon team suddenly doesn't look so wonderful. Suddenly looks like a struggle. They need need to get those 6% stats. As G4, he's very strong, but can't get the pick just yet.
No, not quite. Maokai a little too tanky there with the Merc Treads and the Catalyst. Even the Frozen Heart finish to help fight the Udyr and the Graves in particular. Even Hecarim doesn't really like all the armor, but we do have a locket for 007X. He's got his Cinderhulk and the Giant's Belt up now as well. Lloyd with 2 items also there on the top side of the map, and I love all the CDR coming out from Moss. We mentioned the Bangkok Titans need to really put their foot on the gas in the mid-game, and they're doing so right now. That's the 3rd turret now to equalize.
So many of the win conditions being hit. 007X.
Yeah, gets hooked up. They're knocked up as well by the Rek'Sai. Warlock gonna dive straight in, and Moss goes in as well. Nadia's getting chunked up by the Ahri. Goes down, and 007X still alive finally. Falls there as well, but Energy getting run around as well. Lloyd's gonna join in and just poke away as Ahri is kiting through. The Vlad's fallen though. That's the 2 threats there for Beşiktaş. Take out the Ahri, giving Maokai a shutdown, but Daldrin getting chased out. Almost gonna die to the crits. Double kill there goes to Warlock, and the tree falls as well. That's 4 for 2 in favor of the Titans.
Yeah, 4 for 2, and at this point in the game, Graves can still be super aggressive. So Ahri and Graves, dual assassins with their item timings. Death Cap, Morellonomicon, Infinity Edge, Static Shift is huge power spikes for 22 minutes. And the tankiness is just not there for Beşiktaş. They still need to buy time to get these items, but they're being punished, whether it's turrets, whether it's dragons. Bangkok Titans just playing excellently around their win conditions.
Yeah, and the gold lead starting to snowball a bit now as well. Closer to 4,000 ahead in this situation. You can see Nadia's got the 2 items, but could not peel all of that front line.
I mean, he just got surprised. Ahri showed up behind him and instantly killed him. I mean, they didn't have vision around mid for whatever reasons. Their minion wave line had died, so they didn't have the vision of the creeps, and they seemed to be surprised by the flank from Ahri, despite they were being surprised by a flank next to their inner turret.
And again, it's just been Bangkok Titans' lovely positioning, playing aggressively up. Ahri now building in towards a Zhonya, so not even going for the Void Staff quite yet. Doesn't need it, given that there's not even a locket being looked at right now from Beşiktaş. Just haven't been able to fit one into the rest of the builds. 4th Dragon will be up for them in a mid at 45 as well. Beşiktaş currently still shut out of the objective. Everyone's getting stronger. Even Udyr's getting massively tanky, looking for a Warmogs. And this is the worry for this sort of team comp. When you fall behind like this and you can't scale to the late game, doesn't matter how good your late game is if you never get there.
And with the Zhonyas, they have so many options of dealing with Nadius, who's definitely the person they're trying to focus fire on. We already mentioned Hecarim always has 80 carries written on his agenda to deal with in team fights, but Ahri with a Zhonya suddenly can go for that aggressive dive, take the Hemo Plague, just stasis through that damage. As long as he swaps his life for Jinxes, should be a team fight win for the Bangkok Titans. Sieging pretty difficult with an Udyr especially, but they're getting a lot of work done. Beşiktaş really respecting the power of this Southeast Asian team.
You have to respect the RA charm as well, because if you get poked down, things will start going very wrong, and Lloyd's able to position aggressively and deal good damage to this turret that's already at 50% health. And we brushed over Warlock for a second, but just to go back to the build, the Trinity Force coming through makes a lot of sense, but I love the MR here, because who's he trying to kill? It's the AD carry, and what does he need to worry about then after that? Only magic damage.
The only thing he hasn't fit into his build is the Home Guard enchant, which probably will have gold to pick up soon. Not rushing towards that just yet. Honestly, they haven't needed the flank engages from the Hecarim. They're doing it just fine from the Ahri so far. And as you mentioned, the locket not being completed, much more selfish itemization coming through from Theocles on the Rek'Sai. Probably the most obvious person to pick up the locket for the team. 4th Dragon's coming down. Again, the stats from this one maybe not immediately relevant, but the timer just starts to go in the game, and it's going to be an early one. It's going to be 31 minutes if they can rush down this 4th Dragon.
Yeah, or helping with the pushes, I guess at least semi-relevant. Just being able to snowball, push out some turrets, and then open up space for your 5th Dragon. Dragon's so weird with the way it stacks and snowballs, but they're little advantages, but when you stack them on top of each other, they add up to a very big snowball.
The Home Guard is completed by Hecarim, but isn't opting to stay in base, so only going to get him back to things. So no extra stats picked up, although he did finish the Warden's Mail, so that will be relevant in a fight. This is finally the time. The 4th Dragon of all is the time that Beşiktaş decide they have to hit the go button. But do they have enough to win a fight?
I mean, Moss has his ulti. He might just disengage, although maybe want to fight. They are going to start in there. Dragon getting low. They're actually going to go for a bit of a 50-50 in the backside. Dragon does go to Beşiktaş, but energy, he's already down. Nadia, so firing away from the backline, but the front line is melting for the Turkish team. Hook going wide there. 007X on top of the Jinx. And I'm sorry, Nadia, you have nothing left to live for as the support gets another kill.
And this team comp from the Bangkok Titans is really exposing one of the few weaknesses of Jinx. We've seen Jinx first picks, we've seen Jinx priority in multiple regions. When you have the world's tankiest frontline, the likes of Udyr, the likes of even support Gragas, which is very deceptively tanky from the support realm, you don't get excited. You're just a no-escape AD carry that dies instantly.
And going for the Baron now are Bangkok Titans. It's going to go down swiftly here as Dumbledore, the only man around that can possibly contest it, but he's not even going to make it to water while Atel, I don't think. Nope, Atel he goes in, doesn't throw the hook out though, and Baron goes to the tie side.
So the smallest of advantages come through to Beşiktaş as they do pick up the Dragon. We're going to see the replay. At this point, it looked bad. G4 had already used his first ult charge, and I thought, okay, they're not going to be able to get into Nadius. He's free hitting, but doesn't have that many items on Jinx. And the Super Mega Death Rocket, they just never became a situation where there was going to be a reset for that Get Excited. They're all so tanky. Even the Hecarim, above half health. 007X, less than half health, but this is Udyr we're talking about. Jinx can do nothing, and she watches as their team loses 4 members.
Yeah, now 8,000 gold ahead for the Bangkok Titans as well. Luden's Echo completed now for the Ahri. Not the Zhonya's that I thought it might be. Going for much more aggression and overall team fight damage. A secondary giant spell to go with a Righteous Glory that 007X has moved in. Sorry, that's the first one. He just finished a Righteous Glory because he wanted more aura items. Warlock now with a Frozen Heart, plus the Spectre's Cowl and the Merc Treads. 3 items done for Graves. It is looking troublesome for Beşiktaş.
It's grim reading for this Turkish representative, the home team we have to remember across the map. Everything is looking wonderfully strong for Beşiktaş. Has actually gone for the Merc Treads here as the Ahri, just respecting, I guess, Dumbledore's CC. Maokai to some degree as well is looking to do consistent damage. Whenever you're a champion like Ahri with short cooldowns, it's not necessarily about the burst damage at the start of a fight. It's kiting back, doing consistent damage to make up for the fact that Graves, he's all about burst from the AD carry role.
I know Spawn, one of our other commentators here, loves the Merc Treads right now, and it makes sense. In this sort of tanky meta with CC everywhere, Merc Treads are at a premium right now.
I mean, they're just trying to break the base. They don't necessarily have the rage to do it. Graves not the best turret CG, you'd have to say. But Warlock's already strong. Of course, now has the Frozen Heart. Short cooldown that Rampage means plenty of Trinity Force procs. And Maokai, one of his few downsides is just can't stop people who do good turret damage because he doesn't have the damage to force them away.
Yeah, tower goes down there. Just too much damage, and Beşiktaş can't move into fight. Bangkok Titans have the Gragas ult as well if they really want to commit to taking out structures. That's been one of the nice things we've seen coming through as Warlock going in a bit too aggressive. Needs to find the ulti. Tanking turret though. Locky comes in and Lloyd's walking around the side, but 007X is so tanky, and G4 dives into the back line. Gragasol splits everyone. Theocles going to go low. Thouden dives as well, and the front line's dead for Beşiktaş. 007X dives into the back, and that's 3-0.
And it's looking like the first big upset of the tournament here, Pastry Time, as Bangkok Titans in a very difficult game with an execution-heavy comp have executed perfectly. I thought their win conditions would be a bridge too far. Make one small slip, and suddenly Vlad and Jinx run rampant through your team fight. But they just can't kill the Udyr.
No, and they've exploded. Now Nadius eats it. Charmin goes down instantly to Lloyd. Energy now going to get dove here as well. Turrets melting in front of their eyes. Zhonya's just to buy a little more time, but energy melts as Warlock gets a double. That's the ace coming through for Bangkok Titans, and they finish the game just destroying the Turkish side's first outing.
And we wondered what the thing that Udyr would contribute as this kind of sideways pick, forcing Gragas into a support role, but was completely justified just because Udyr could run at Jinx. And that's the one thing, Udyr can definitely run at people. Doesn't always get to them, but in this case it didn't matter because they couldn't kill any of the front line coming through. Gragas, Gragas in this game, of course, Gragas into the Udyr, into the Hecarim, just not killable from a Jinx perspective, even with the Hemoplague spreading onto multiple members every fight. Never got excited, just sat in the backline doing a little bit of chip damage, while the rest of the Ahri and Graves especially run rampant through the Beşiktaş lineup.
I mean, certainly when your front line is starting to melt to your opponent's carries, you sort of realize that the problems are everywhere, because it doesn't even matter if you can't peel the front line, because your front line dead and all of a sudden you have nothing left to help you peel for you.
That's the thing. Jinx doesn't have self-peel, only has that passive, which makes her look like a mobile champion when she's winning, but for once we see her punished, just an immovable AD carry at the back, no front line to fight around, and Beşiktaş, just a very surprising loser this game. Bangkok Titans, they got their big victory.
Yeah, very creative stuff there, and a strong showing after what was a fairly even early game, you have to think. We talked about it. Things were going well. They were farming away, and all of a sudden, the Bangkok Titans, their aggression finally rewarded, you have to think, because they were arguably over-aggressive in the early game, and they just took the ball and ran with it all the way to the end.
But the thing is, they understood their win conditions, and I asked a lot of questions about whether they could pull off. I think they pulled off everything with aplomb. The flash from Graves especially was a complete highlight. We don't see that often in competitive play. Flashing for the buckshot kill onto the jungler, but it opened up another objective, opened up their second dragon from memory. All the controlled aggression in the world. You know, sometimes when these teams lose, if they had lost this game, it would have been reckless aggression. But controlled aggression was the story from the Bangkok Titans, and it obviously took Beşiktaş off guard.
Yeah, I mean, losing just that one dragon, I guess, towards the end was the one fault. But honestly, they won the team fight handily and just were able to push from there and take the Baron. So even that one dragon didn't matter too much. But we do have a replay now as well.
So we'll wait and see. One of the big fights in this game. So there's only a 4,000 gold lead at this point. This was a fight that actually looked like it could go Beşiktaş's way before I remembered that nobody could die on this Bangkok Titans line. They're already so tanky. Look at these item builds. The one thing you mentioned actually earlier in the cast, no locket was ever completed for Theocles. Doesn't have it in this situation, but Udyr, full tank, has the Cinder Hulk into the locket. At this point, Trinity Force already completed, then cost-effective armor and magic resist for the Hecarim. And I mean, even Gragas can just sip on that Drunken Rage, has already a nice health stack, so I'll roll the tape in this situation. So I believe this is where the Dragonsteel, yes, this is where the Dragonsteel comes in. So the objective looks good in this case. They try to DPS down the dragon. Ahri's caught up. The dragon falls down low. It's stolen away, which is wonderful. But look at this. Nadius is free hitting in the backline. It's just not doing any damage because no one falls low from Bangkok Titans. They have so many item timings. And Nadius needs what? A Bloodthirster and a Last Whisper to be relevant. Can't break through anyone. Udyr running at you is suddenly a super scary thing because you don't have a gap, because you're not Ezreal, you don't have the Arcane Shift to get away. She dies in the backline. That was just the story of what happened this game. Bangkok Titans, they took it over and they never looked like losing.
Yeah, their lead, especially at that last fight, was just too much. I just noticed when we watched it back, Lloyd was the one trying to take away the dragon. That AD carry with 2.5, almost 3 items. He got zoned out completely, had to just try and free hit the jungler, got zoned out by a Thresh box trapped in the dragon pit, and it just didn't matter.
I mean, look, if the AD carry role doesn't work out, there's plenty of other roles where you can flash in aggressively and blow people up. But man, he made Graves look good. Reminded me of actually Pinoy shooting onto the scene for Gambit Gaming and showing a lot of aggression against Double Lift of all people earlier this year. Much the same story here, just so much aggression on the Graves that we don't expect. And Graves is a very early pick in multiple aggressive regions just for reasons like this. If the game ends early, if it's not relevant that you're a 525 range AD carry who often has to use his only steroid defensively, if you can just quick draw, or in this case, flash in and blow people up, it looks great.
It does look great, and I think for the Bangkok Titans, other teams will look at that game and I think have to feel quite afraid. Not only did they mix things up and I'm going to say it, maybe trick Beşiktaş there in champs, like with the Gragas pick, at least open themselves up to a really cool flex pick there in that draft. It's not just picking the wacky things and, you know, having some fun and having a good early game. They executed wonderfully in the end, but we got them straight to an interview.